All right, everybody. We are so excited to have you here. I know we can't see you, but that's partly because we have a video to show you that's really awesome in just a few minutes. And so I will reintroduce myself. My name is Kevin Johnson. I'm with Appalachian Headwaters. And Appalachian Headwaters is kind of an interesting outfit. We're based in Summers and Greenbrier County, but we work all over the state. And some of our programs are the Appalachian Beekeeping Collective. You can see our little logo there, where we train beekeepers in a natural beekeeping protocol. We have over 100 of them in 8 counties. We also run a summer camp that's focused on outdoor ed, which is sort of what this is about. And that's going to be in July this year at campwaldo.org. We also have a really awesome native plant and reforestation program. You can see a photo of that right there on the Mammoth property near Montgomery, West Virginia. And then you're going to meet Dr. Elizabeth Long, who is an expert on pollinators. She's particularly expert at butterflies. So we'll meet her pretty soon. I just wanted to say that we didn't expect the weather to be so nice today. So we decided on Wednesday, when it was really nice, to do a little bit of a field trip outside and video what we wanted to present today, just in case the weather was poor. So that's why we're going to show you a video in a minute, but I want to show you a few slides first. All right, well, first of all, we're going to talk about pollinators, or Dr. Long is going to talk about pollinators. And there's many different kinds. I'm sure you all know some of these and see them on a regular basis now that spring is on us. Bees are one of them. These are all honeybees. You can see me up there working with another beekeeper. We love honeybees, but we love all other different kinds of bees. And they help to keep our forests growing and these beautiful wildflowers we love productive and coming back every year. We also, butterflies are also great pollinators. Here's one on the side of a bee box. There's not many of them active right now, so they're a little bit harder to find, but keep your eyes open. There'll be more soon. And then moths. This is a beautiful moth. I think this is called beautiful wood nymph moth, and it likes to land on this plant near my house. And so I took a photo of it. Moths are very active at night. And so a lot of times we don't realize they're doing this important job of pollinating all the beautiful flowers in our yards or even in the woods. All right, well, flies, this is one of the things that I never realized until I was an adult, but flies, including tiny little gnats and no-see-ums, they pollinate too. And I show you a picture of 2 different things here. On the left-hand side, we have, those are cocoa pods or cacao. That's what chocolate comes from. Isn't that funny? It looks like a little Nerf football growing off a tree. And so these tiny little chocolate midges is what they're called. They visit these tiny little white flowers. There's thousands of them on a tree. And they pollinate them so that they can grow these pods, and then we can make chocolate out of it. Of course, we don't have cocoa trees here in West Virginia, but I would bet a lot of you like chocolate. So thank you to those flies. And then here on the bottom right, you may be familiar with this. That is a pawpaw. And I know that I drive past pawpaw trees every day, and I look forward to August, September, seeing those fruits start to ripen on the branches, and then maybe in September harvest some of them. And those are also pollinated by flies in the early spring. It's hard to spot the flowers. They're not very showy. They're kind of a purpley color. But if you keep your eyes on those trees, you might just spot some of their flowers here in the next month. All right, so like I said, we're going to do a video of a backyard field trip that you can take in your own backyard or in the woods, anywhere. I just want to say that West Virginia is the perfect place to explore your backyard at any time of year, not just spring. But there is a whole lot to see in spring. There's a few guidelines that I always like to share when we're at camp, is that we want to leave no trace. So if you bring something into the woods, or you bring a snack with you in the backyard, you want to take it back and put it in the trash can. Don't leave it out in the woods or on the grass. You want to be safe. And there's many ways to be safe. I'm sure your teachers have taught you well about how to be safe, or your parents. But you want to be real safe when you're on the trail, and safety often is a good point for safety is to be in a group. You don't want to be by yourself. You want to be prepared. And I brought some things here just to show you how I prepare, but this is a little too much maybe if you're just in the backyard. But if I'm in charge of a group, or if I'm going on a hike in the national forest or something, I want to be prepared. So for example, I usually bring a little first aid kit. You can see that I've got some bandages here just in case I cut myself. I've got some cream in there, antibiotic cream. I bring, not so much right now, but you've got some sunblock. That's important. Something that I noticed, and you'll see in our video, is that ticks are active already. And so you really want to protect yourself from ticks. So I got my tick repellent. I have, just so that I'm ready for any wildlife I spot, I have these, you can see they're a little dusty, my binoculars that I got from a family member. If you don't have them, that's perfectly fine. I also have a few different guidebooks. Man, look at all these guidebooks: spiders, insects, trees, and another one on West Virginia butterflies and moths. This is one of my favorites. I bring me a snack so I don't get too hungry on the trail, and bring some water. And that's about it. A jacket, sometimes a hat. So make sure that you're prepared for your trip outside, even if it's just this weekend for an hour. And then finally, time is a friend. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time. I know that many of us are busy. Sometimes the only time that I have to explore is almost at night when I'm going home, but I can still hear those spring peepers outside. I can hear some of the birds at night. I can hear a hoot owl. I can hear running water. Last night there was a lot of water running. So it doesn't even matter if it's for 10 minutes in the evening time. It's worth it. But give yourself a little bit of time. All right, finally, I said I was about done. There's some apps that are really helpful. And this is just an example. I'm not promoting only these, but Seek or iNaturalist is really helpful if you want to identify something. And of course, it's helpful that it's something that doesn't move too much, but this can actually help you with things like salamanders and insects as well, funguses, plants. So that's one useful app. One thing that I love to do in the fall, but I could do it all year long, is use a trail camera to keep track of who's coming and going. And so you can see on the left-hand side, that's a groundhog that likes to hang out in the lower field, and it's using the footbridge because the water got up. So exciting images. You can see animals coming and going, and this big old black bear that's up on the ridge. So just some things that you can think about. So I'm done talking. I'm going to pass it over to my coworker, Adriana, and she's going to share a field trip video with you all that I hope that you can hear, and I hope you all will enjoy. And I'll just say that we'll send this out to you all later. If you have some issues with connection or audio, we'll send it out to you so you can share it later.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Adriana. I also work for Appalachian Headwaters. And as Kevin mentioned, we went on a little exploration on Wednesday when it was super nice out, and we made this little video of the things we found. So I'll go ahead and start that now.
Here we are in an old pasture, and there in the distance is Muddy Creek Mountain. We're close to Lewisburg, West Virginia. And Greenbrier County, actually the Greenbrier Valley, is the world's densest sinkhole plain. The rock below us is limestone. So a lot of the creeks around here will disappear into the ground. People often call those sinking creeks. Behind me on either side of this path here is a plant called autumn olive. And it is a non-native invasive species, but it grows very prolifically in disturbed areas, like along a wood path like this, or on the edge of a pasture. The autumn olive does provide habitat and food for different species, including birds. They love the little fruits on them, and honeybees love the nectar that comes off the autumn olive, which is productive in the early spring. So it's useful to those honeybees, but it's pretty difficult to control. So here we've arrived at a clearing that was part of an old homestead. And you can see this tree right here. This is an old apple tree that was probably planted and encouraged by the previous residents of this hillside property. Take a look at this tree. This is an amazing tree. See how it has that peeling bark all the way up the trunk? This is called a shagbark hickory, and it's very easy to tell by this bark. It has delicious edible nuts. I wonder, why do you think it peels its bark? Why would it want to do that? I think it's about time I took off a layer as well. I'm getting a little warm out. Look at this enormous grapevine growing up this ash tree that just died and helping to bring it down once it had been sufficiently weakened by the emerald ash borer. That's just amazing. Here we are along Milligan Creek, just next to Route 60 in Greenbrier County. Let's walk along it a little bit and see if we can find some interesting things. Here you can see that the vegetation on both sides of the creek have been matted down by high water. This is called part of the floodplain. Many people call it a bottom. And if there is enough rain in a short enough period of time, this whole bottom probably fills up with water. And that's natural. What it also creates is a lot of habitat for burrowing crayfish, also for mammals that like to live along the stream bank, like muskrats and beavers, and also otters, which we just saw, and I wasn't ready to take video of it. But up here a little bit further, I want to show you something pretty neat that's in a channel by the stream. So we've come upon this channel that feeds into Milligan Creek, and I want us to follow along here and see what we can find. And take a look. There is a snapping turtle. See it right there? This is nice shelter for a snapping turtle. And of course, it will go over into the creek to hunt. So here we are right by Milligan Creek, as you can hear, and we're in a riffle where the water moves quickly, usually over rocks, which creates great habitat for crayfish and lots of other aquatic macroinvertebrates. So let's take a look under some rocks and see what we see. Let's check out this rock right here. And look at that. See that there?
We have some larvae there. Looks like we might have a mayfly or a stonefly larva, several of them, maybe even a caddisfly larva right there. And we look at these critters to assess how clean the stream is. It's crawling in critters. That's a pretty good sample right there. Let's check another rock. Here we are checking another rock. Look at them move. Right there, we have in the middle of the screen, we have a stonefly. And look at all those little babies over there. There's got to be at least a dozen of them on the bottom of this rock. Some of them are so tiny and they're almost transparent. It's hard to see them. Always make sure to put the rocks back right where you found them.
Long, and I work at Appalachian Headwaters as the director of the Appalachian Pollinator Center. We're out today in some woods just to the west of Lewisburg, and I'm really excited to have just found one of my very favorite flowers. It's called a spring beauty, and it's a very small, delicate little flower. It's part of a group called the spring ephemerals, and it's because they bloom in springtime. An ephemeral means that they're only here for a really short period of time. They bloom, they're here for maybe a week or two, and then they die off and they make seeds, and then we won't see them again until this time next year. So it's really a small window of opportunity for when we can go looking for them. One of my favorite things about them is that they provide food for a lot of insect pollinators who wake up early. We've got a few of our native bees and a few other little insect species out right now who can pollinate our little spring beauty flower. And it's a really important source of nutrition for these species because there's not a lot of things that are in bloom. And so having something that provides some pollen and provides some nectar early in the season can be really, really, really life-saving for these early pollinator species. There's one species in particular, it's a native bee. So it's not like our honeybees that we see all the time that make honey for us. This is a different species of bee. They live by themselves. They don't live in these big hives. And this one is called, it's an andrena. And this spring beauty andrena bee, this is the only flower that she can collect pollen from to feed to her babies. She can't collect pollen from any other kind of flower. So if she can't find spring beauty, she won't have enough food to eat for herself or to feed to her babies. So being able to find healthy populations of these little lovely spring beauties are really important for the andrena bee. And we're looking around, we found a couple more. I'm pretty excited that this isn't the only one. This is the first one I found this year, but we've got another one, just a couple of feet here over to the right. And we can see it's actually got two little blossoms, and then you can see several more little blossoms that haven't quite bloomed, some more buds right here. It's just a really lovely, delicate flower. So this is colt's foot. This is another spring blooming, early spring blooming flower. It's not native to our area, but it's pretty well established. Sometimes you'll find it in disturbed areas and roadsides, or you might find it in some open woodlands. And again, it's not a native species, but it's so well established here that it's become another important food source for some of our spring insects that wake up early and don't have a lot of flowers to choose from. So, you know, if we want to be really, really, really concerned and only grow natives, then this wouldn't be a plant you would want to try to keep in your area. But it's not easy to blink out all the colt's foots in the world. So I usually just kind of let them go, and the insects will thank you for it. So we have a plant that doesn't look very interesting right now, but it's providing some really important habitat for some of our overwintering species. So the plant is winged winged stem. And it gets its name because the stem of it actually has small little flaring out sections that resemble wings. And wing stem is food for caterpillars of a couple of species of butterflies that are local for us. So the Harris's checker spot and the silvery checker spot. So sometime last summer, a mother checker spot butterfly laid eggs on some of these wing stems, and those eggs hatched out and became caterpillars. The caterpillars ate the leaves and the stems, and then they probably crawled down to the base of the plant and burrowed down into the leaf litter and a little bit of the shallow dirt at the base of the plant, and they took a nap for wintertime. They'll probably be waking up in a couple of weeks. They'll eat some more of the plant, and then they'll go into their pupal stage or their chrysalis stage. They'll stay there for about 2 weeks, and then they'll hatch out and become butterflies. And they'll do that cycle over and over. This is their favorite plant to eat. So if they can't find enough of the wing stem, then they're not going to live here because they've got to live somewhere where this plant lives. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to come back sometime later on this spring and see a lot of beautiful checker spot butterflies flying around here.
Hi, I'm Ivy Lakia. We're here to talk about the golden ragwort. The scientific name for the golden ragwort is Pectina aria, a common pollinator that these plants attract are bees and butterflies.
So this is the seed head for common milkweed, and you can see that at the end of the year last year, the seeds dried up, and if you start to pull them out like this, they're nice and fluffy, and they can catch the wind and fly in the wind. And so that's how the common milkweed disperses its seed, and they can move to new places and new habitats. This is by flying and getting carried on the wind. Milkweeds are incredibly important. The flowers provide lots of food for a lot of different pollinators. The pollinators will come to the flower to collect pollen or to collect nectar as food for themselves. Or to give to their babies. It's also a really important plant for monarch butterflies. So the mother monarch butterfly in the summertime will lay her eggs on the leaves of the milkweed. She lays them just one at a time, usually underneath of the leaf. And when those eggs hatch out and become caterpillars, the caterpillars will eat the leaf of the milkweed. And for a monarch butterfly, this is the only plant that it can eat. If the mother makes the wrong choice and she lays her eggs on the wrong plant, her children won't have anything to eat. They won't be able to grow up and become butterflies. A really interesting thing about milkweed is that it contains something in its sap that would be poisonous to us. If we were to try to eat it, it's got a white gooey sap. If you ever see a milkweed, you can break the leaf open or any part of the plant, you'll see this milky kind of sticky sap that comes out of it. It's poisonous to us, and it's poisonous to most things, but the monarch caterpillar can eat it, keep that sap, that poison in its body without getting hurt. And then if something tries to eat the caterpillar or the butterfly, like a bird comes along and thinks it's going to have a nice meal on that monarch butterfly, the bird will think it tastes really bad and it'll let go. And a lot of the times the butterfly will be able to fly away without any real damage to it. So that poison doesn't hurt the butterfly, but it provides protection against getting eaten by bigger animals. So we just found a hoverfly. It's pollinating these little white flowers here. Sometimes these flowers are called harbinger of spring. They're also called chickweed. And this hoverfly has really interesting colors. So you'll notice if you look at it, it looks a lot like a bee, like a honeybee. And the reason for this is because that hoverfly is mimicking a honeybee for protection, because a predator might see that fly and actually think it's a bee and it's going to get stung if it attacks. And so the hoverfly gets protection from predators because it's looking like a bee, but in fact, it can't actually sting you.
All right, so as you guys can see, there's tons of activity happening and spring is upon us. So I'll let Kevin talk about what you guys are currently doing now.
Yeah, we're just about at time. Thank you all for joining us. Adrian did a great job, don't you think, with that video? Like I said, we will share that with you all who registered so you can watch it and hopefully not have the connection issues. But we really want you all to go out there and explore. This weekend is supposed to be great weather, at least here. So enjoy spring as it unfolds and look for those pollinators, those little flowers, or anything else, those frogs, which we'll be talking about next Friday with Tommy Bergstrom of the West Virginia DEP. So get excited for that. One other thing we wanted to share before we're done is this great bingo card. You met Ivy in the video, and Ivy put this together for us. It's a spring flower bingo. And so we'll also send this out to you all so you can do it in your backyard or in the woods near your home. Have fun in the woods. Make sure you're safe, make sure you're prepared, and we really look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.
Happy Friday.